And so I think the beautiful design paired with the sentimental story behind this garment make it really, really special. Hi everyone, my name's Jessica and welcome back to my channel Knits Made by J. Today I am bringing you 30 knitting patterns from the month of July 2025. So July was an amazing month for pattern releases. It was honestly extremely difficult to narrow my choices down to 30 patterns. I was originally going to release a 10 pattern video like I did last month, but there was just so many beautiful designs and patterns to choose from. It would have been impossible to narrow it down to just 10. So that's why we have 30 today. And one of the things that I found really interesting about the patterns being released this past month is that we're still seeing a lot of summer garments being released. So a lot of lace, a lot of cute like vest tops and skirts and dresses. But then we're also seeing cable creep its way back in. It's almost like we're starting to soft launch cables into the season. And I say that because it's not like we're seeing big, chunky, woolly cable garments just yet, but we're seeing a little bit of more of a delicate cable pattern being released into some of these garments I'm going to talk about today. And they may perhaps be knit up in more of a summer appropriate yarn and not a big, thick, woolly type yarn. So it's really interesting to see that transition happening in real time. And yeah, let's get down to it. The first design I want to talk about today is the Anise top by Irene Lin. Um, this top is worked in the same motif that she uses for one of her other patterns, which is a sweater called the Quince sweater. And this top is just beautiful. It is worked from the top down in a 1x1 rib, and then it also features this gorgeous lace motif on the bottom half of the top and then also on the sleeves. It is knitted up using needle sizes US 6 and 4 with a gauge of 22 stitches by 27 rows. And she uses a beautiful sport weight yarn comprised of 70% linen and 30% silk. So this would be a very comfortable top to wear during the warmer months going into fall. When I look at this top personally, it looks like the perfect top to wear at a summer festival. That's the vibe I'm getting from this top, but it is absolutely beautiful. And that's the Anise top by Irene Lin. Okay, so the next pattern we're going to talk about is the Josephine top by Lily Kate France. This top is absolutely stunning. It features a 2x2 rib, a beautiful wide boat neck, and then also those cap sleeves that we see included in a lot of Lily Kate France's designs as of late. She works it up in Sidar's cashmere merino silk, which is a DK weight yarn, and that's made up of 75% merino, 20% silk, and 5% cashmere. She uses needle sizes US 4, and she has a gauge of 24 stitches by 40 rows. What really appealed to me is that the designer talks about how she has designed this top to be reminiscent of sportswear. And I can 100% see that. It is both chic, it is both reminiscent of sportswear, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And I feel like that's what really sets this top apart. Okay, so the next pattern we're going to talk about is the Hawaii top, and it's by Chandails et Cardigan. Excuse my poor French pronunciation. This is a gorgeous summer garment. It is a vest top which features a beautiful lace motif throughout the entirety of it, and then these really cute, like knitted over fabric buttons. The designer recommends working this top on a cable back and forth so that there's no seams. And it is worked from the bottom up. And she uses a fingering weight merino and nylon blend yarn. She recommends using needle sizes US 2.5 and 2. And the gauge on this particular garment is 29 stitches. And lastly, it is noted on Ravelry that the designer includes some video tutorials on her YouTube channel to help you when knitting up this particular pattern. Okay, so the next pattern is called the French Cardigan by Maria Tsybulskaya. And this cardigan is absolutely beautiful. The designer says that it is inspired by a garment that you would see at a Cezanne store. It features a gorgeous lace motif that runs vertically from the top down on each side of the cardigan. This pattern is knit up using needle sizes US 6, and it has a gauge of, let's see, 25 stitches by 37 rows. It is worked up in a lace weight yarn that comprises of mink and goat cashmere. So that's very luxurious. I imagine it feels super soft and cozy. The designer mentions that she doesn't believe you necessarily have to be a very experienced knitter to be able to knit this cardigan up. So our next pattern is the Alabaster top by Sofia Scotford. And this is a gorgeous tank top worked up using Knitting for Olive's pure silk. The designer recommends using needles US size 8, 6, and 2.5, and it has a gauge of 18 stitches by 28 rows. The next pattern we're going to talk about is the Ilana top by Masha Ziablikova, and this features a beautiful teeny tiny delicate cable pattern throughout the entirety of the top. It's so elegant, and I think that's what drew me to this top. The top is knit from the top down. The designer uses Garn Studios Drops Saffron yarn, which is a 100% Egyptian cotton, and it is a sport weight yarn. The gauge on this top is 26 stitches by 31 rows, and the designer recommends using needle sizes US size 3 and 1.5. There isn't really much more for me to add other than it's just so elegant and beautiful, and I feel like you could dress it up or you could wear it with jeans. It's just gorgeous. The next pattern I'm going to talk about is the Ichigo top by Laura Menéndez, and this is another beautiful summer top that features a stunning lace motif that runs vertically from the top to the bottom, and it is worked up in a DK weight 100% cotton yarn. The designer recommends using US size 2.5 and 4 needles, and the gauge is 21 stitches by 30 rows. The construction of this garment is worked in the round from the bottom up, and what's really nice about this particular pattern is that the designer, who notes that this is a beginner-friendly pattern, she also includes written instructions for the lace motif in addition to the chart. So that is awesome. So that is the Ichigo top by Laura Menéndez. The next pattern I'm going to talk about is the Emmanuel T round neck by Johanna Gehrisch. This top is absolutely gorgeous. It features a quite large lace motif on the back of the top, and it has these beautiful 3/4 length sleeves, and it's worked from the top down and is bound off using I-cord edging. It's absolutely gorgeous. When you look at the front of the top, which is worked up in stockinette stitch, it looks kind of more simple, and then once you look at the back, it's like such a statement with that beautiful, quite large lace motif. It's just stunning. And the halo from the yarn is just beautiful too. It just adds to how beautiful this top is. The designer uses Tilia by Ilana, which is a mohair and silk blend yarn made up of 70% mohair and 30% silk, and it is a lace weight yarn. The designer recommends using needle sizes US 7 and 4, and the gauge is 17 stitches by 29 rows. So in addition to this top being absolutely gorgeous, it seems like it would probably knit up fairly quickly too. Okay, so moving on to the next pattern, and that is the Honey Tea by Brianna Mason. And what really appealed to me about this particular pattern is the combination of cabling and ribbing, and that combined with the overall structure of the garment. It definitely resembles the structure of just your regular casual t-shirt, which is what makes this particular garment very cool in my eyes. I love that the designer pairs the elegant cable with that casual fit, and I really think that makes this particular piece very versatile. You can wear it in the office, you can wear it just casually with your favorite pair of jeans or with a beautiful long skirt if you want to dress it up. I really think it's a beautiful, beautiful top. And the designer says that it is worked top down seamlessly, so there is no seaming involved with this particular pattern. She works it up in Willish by Quince & Co., which is a 100% cotton yarn, and that is a sport weight yarn. And she recommends using needle size US4. And this pattern has a gauge of 26 stitches by 30 rows. So that is the Honey Tea by Brianna Mason. So moving on to our next pattern, and it is a top called Braided Lines by Pope Vergara. This top is, again, another beautiful, stunning piece. It features a gorgeous, like braided cable throughout the pattern, and it is worked from the top down, starting at the back, joining at the shoulders and working down the front, and then joined in the round at the underarms. The designer has included two options with this pattern, one without beads and one with, which is super cool. She uses Kid Silk Haze by Rowan, which is a lace weight mohair and silk blended yarn. She recommends using needle sizes US 5 and US 7, and the gauge is 18 stitches by 24 rows. And what stood out to me about this pattern is that the cables are so delicate, yet there's something very casual about this top. And I could totally see this top paired with jeans and cowboy boots. That's how I would wear it if I had cowboy boots. But it's just absolutely stunning, such a versatile piece. I do believe you could dress it up or wear it more casually. And I do recommend checking out this designer. I don't want to speak to her story, but she goes over it a little bit in her profile on Ravelry about how she began knitting, and it's just so inspiring. And her other patterns that she has are just absolutely beautiful and such works of art, and include the use of a lot of beads and sequins, and I just highly recommend checking out this designer's Ravelry. I'll include a link below. Okay, so the next pattern I'm going to talk about is actually a sock pattern, and they are called the September Garden Socks by Midori Maruyama, and they feature this gorgeous design and checkerboard pattern on there. They almost remind me of like a Spanish tile, if I'm honest with you. And they're so striking, but so beautiful. I had to talk about them today. They are knit from the top down, and the designer notes that even though it looks like quite a difficult design, that it kind of gets easier as you go along. And the designer uses a fingering weight yarn, and it is a 85% merino and 15% nylon blend. She recommends using needle sizes US 1 and 1.5, and these socks have a gauge of 37 stitches by 35 rows. So those are the September Garden Socks by Midori Maruyama. So the next pattern is the Seashore skirt by Veronika Lindberg. This skirt is absolutely beautiful. It is described as slightly boho. It is worked in the round using many different lace motifs and features a wider waistband, which the designer says is to give it a more modern appeal or feel to the garment. And then it finishes with a beautiful, delicate frill at the bottom of the skirt. If you look at the pictures on Ravelry, you'll see that there is a longer version of the skirt and a shorter version of the skirt pictured on there. And I think that makes it really versatile and makes it so that you could knit the skirt up for any occasion. Um, the designer uses Knitting for Olive's Pure Silk, which is a 100% silk yarn in a fingering weight. She recommends using needle sizes US 6 and 2.5, and the gauge on this garment is 21 stitches by 22 rows. And as always, Veronika Lindberg includes a YouTube tutorial for this pattern, which makes it even more accessible to anyone who needs help while knitting up this skirt. So yeah, it's absolutely stunning. I mean, it stood out to me for obvious reasons. It's just gorgeous. And yeah, I don't have anything else to add. That's the Seashore skirt by Veronika Lindberg. Okay, so moving on to our next two patterns that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about them somewhat at the same time because they each make up an outfit, and that outfit is comprised of the Solane skirt and the Solane top by August Knit. And it is absolutely beautiful. It is a gorgeous lace pattern that is worked throughout the entirety of the top and the skirt. The Solane skirt is worked from the bottom up. It starts with a beautiful scalloped hem, and then at the very top, the waistband features a double folded waistband and then a beautiful I-cord drawstring. And the top is also worked from the bottom up in that same lace pattern. It's absolutely gorgeous. I feel like I could see myself wearing this outfit on vacation. It's like the perfect vacation outfit, in my opinion. Um, Both are worked up using Knitting for Olive's Pure Silk, which is a fingering weight 100% silk yarn. And for the skirt, the designer recommends using needle size US 6 and 4, and it has a gauge of 20 stitches by 28 rows. Just like the skirt, the Solane top has a gauge of 20 stitches by 28 rows, and the designer recommends using needle size US 6. The Solane top and skirt really appealed to me because of the beautiful lace pattern that's featured throughout the entirety of it. It does appear very delicate, but also very wearable. I could definitely see myself wearing this in the summer or maybe wearing it out to dinner or lunch while on vacation. It's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful design. So that's the Solane top and skirt by August Knit. The next pattern I want to show you is the Liléa by Olena Mitseva. And what is so cool about this particular garment is, number one, I saw it and I thought of Jackie O. It looked like, to me, like something Jackie O would wear. And second of all, this pattern includes three separate instructions. So the designer gives you instructions to make the dress version of this pattern, a striped top version, or a top version with the scalloped edges on the arms and hem. And I think this piece is super versatile because of that. And I just think it's so beautiful. It's worked from the top down, and it features, like I said, those beautiful scalloped um, edges along the bottom of the dress and then the bottom of the sleeves. Um, the designer works this up using Denim by Rowan, which is a worsted weight yarn, and it is 100% cotton. She recommends using size 3.25 millimeter needles, and the gauge for this garment is 21 stitches by 32 rows. Right now, looking at this pattern on Ravelry, it is $6. So $6 for three different variations of this pattern. Almost forgot to add that this pattern also includes caption videos to help instruct you when making this garment too. The next pattern I want to talk about is the Peregrine Tank by Megan Balmer. This is a beautiful tank slash vest top that features a number of different cable designs. It is knit in the round, but it doesn't say on Ravelry whether it's worked from the top down or the bottom up. So I don't have that information for you, but the fact that it mentions circular needles means that there is probably little to no seaming involved, so that's a plus. The designer uses Kobu by the Lion brand, and that yarn is made up with 51% cotton and 49% rayon from bamboo. She recommends using needle sizes US 2.5 and 4, and the gauge for this item is 25.5 stitches by 29 rows. The designer mentions that using this yarn allows for this garment to be very breathable and therefore a great garment to wear during the summer. And I definitely agree that the cotton and bamboo mix will allow for this to be a very comfortable wear in the warmer months. However, I do think that this pattern could also be beautiful knit up in a wool yarn for the colder months, which makes this pattern super versatile. Okay, so moving on to our next pattern, and that is the Catania Avo Cropped Cable Cardigan by Derry Kim. This is another beautiful garment that stood out to me for its preppy but casual vibe that it gives off. The cables that are worked through this garment are so beautiful and so tidy, but the sleeves and then the, I guess, cropped nature of this garment, even though you totally do not have to make this cropped, give it a more casual feel to the piece. It is worked from the bottom up on a cable to allow for less seaming, and the designer states that the only seaming involved are for the sleeves. She uses a 100% cotton yarn in a sport weight, and she recommends using needle size US 4 and US 6. And this particular garment has a gauge of 25 stitches by 33 rows. So, what I love about this cardigan in particular is the fact that it has short sleeves and a cropped body, yet it features these beautiful cables throughout the garment. And when I think of cables, I think of fall, yet this is so obviously a piece that you need to wear when it's still warm out. And I think it's great for those of us who, at the end of the summer, are still needing to wear something that isn't too warm, but like mentally we're in fall. um, so I think that's what makes this piece so great. It is truly a transitional piece, perfect to wear from the end of summer into early fall. The next pattern is the Annie vest by the Knit Pearl Girl. And I love this vest because it's designed in a way that allows you to wear the buttons on the back, which reminds me of some of the pieces that I've seen at Cezanne. And I think this feature where you wear the buttons at the back just kind of elevates a simple design, and it's so elegantly understated, I guess is the best way I could put it. This garment is worked from the top down, but it is worked flat, and the designer used a yarn that is comprised of 70% linen and 30% silk, and that is a sport weight yarn. She recommends using needle size US 6 and 2.5, and the gauge on this garment is 22 stitches by 30 rows. So moving on to the Marielle blouse by Maria Schei Mogenstad. I'm so excited about the release of this pattern. I first spotted it on the designer's Instagram page several weeks ago before it had been released. So I'm super excited because I've been keeping an eye out for its release. It's just so beautiful. It features a vertical lace motif throughout the entirety of the garment, but that motif is so dainty and delicate. The word that comes to my mind is whimsical. I personally can't wait to knit this one up. I would love to knit it in like a blue type colorway. I know Knitting for Olive has a blue called Poppy Blue. I think it would be stunning in that color. The designer recommends using Knitting for Olive's merino, which is a 100% merino wool, and it is a fingering weight wool. And she recommends a needle size of US size 6. And this pattern has a gauge of 20 stitches by 30 rows. I absolutely love this piece. I think it could be dressed up with a long skirt, or just worn casually with jeans. It's honestly very versatile and so beautiful. So moving on to our next pattern, which is the Shiro cardigan by Knits by Summer. This cardigan is so stunning. It is a short sleeve cardigan, again, another short sleeve cardigan. So I want to take a minute to just read what the designer says about this piece. She says that the Shiro cardigan is a light and airy knit with clean lines, representing the Japanese word shiro. It's a symbol of calm and simplicity. And I do think it's almost a calming piece to look at. And I do think the beauty in this piece is in its simplicity. I do think that this piece stood out to me for its simplicity, but it's so beautiful and it's so elegant. And I really think this is a special piece personally. So this garment is worked from the top down and features a saddle constructed shoulder, and the designer uses Sunday by Sadness yarn, which is a fingering weight yarn, and it is 100% merino. The designer recommends using needle size US 6, and the gauge for this cardigan is 21 stitches by 28 rows. Moving on to the next pattern, and this garment is a tunic. It is the Never Too Late tunic by Mini Me Knit Design. This tunic is so cool. It is constructed from the top down. The designer says that she uses raglan shaping, but somehow she has managed to design it where the sleeves still look like set in. It features this beautiful like horizontal design on the sleeve cuffs, and the neckline and then the hem. And it also has this like really cool like tasseled I-cord drawstring around the neck. And it's very like casual chic, I guess you could call it. It's just beautiful. I would love to knit this up for myself. I feel like I would live in this garment if I knit it up. Um, the designer uses the baby wool by We Are Knitters, and that's a DK weight wool. It is 100% alpaca, so this piece is going to definitely keep you warm. She recommends using needle size US 7, and this pattern has a gauge of 20 stitches by 26 rows. What's really cool is that given the needle size and the gauge and the weight of the yarn, I actually think this would knit up real quick, which means it's less intimidating, because when I first saw this, I was like, ooh, I don't know, like knitting up a whole entire tunic. I'm only used to knitting up sweaters. I think the largest thing I've knit up so far. So the fact that the gauge isn't so bad and the needle size is quite large, I do feel like this would knit up pretty quick. So that is the Never Too Late tunic by Mini Me Knit Design. Okay, so the next pattern is the Forget Me Not jumper by Florence Miller. I first spotted this on her Instagram page. It is so beautiful. It is very striking for obvious reasons. She pairs such beautiful pastel colors with this beautiful colorwork design that she has along the yoke of the sweater. She recommends using Jensen by Ichigo, and that's just one of her yarn recommendations for this pattern. She doesn't give away too much on how this particular garment is constructed, but I do see that circular needles are used, so there isn't going to be much seaming involved with this sweater, if any. And she recommends using size US 4, 6, and 7 needles, and the gauge of this garment is 20 stitches by 28 rows. Okay, so the next pattern also features colorwork design, and it is the Meadowbit by Teti Lutsak. I first spotted it on YouTube and saved it and kept my eye on it and waited for its release. It's just beautiful. The pattern features a vest version or a sweater version. So the designer goes into a little bit of detail about her inspiration behind this pattern, and she says that it captures the sweetness of honey and the joyful bloom of flowers. And you can see that in her design. You have those beautiful flowers that are worked up in a contrasting color to the rest of the garment. And then she has some beautiful honeycomb like stitching as well in the center of the garment. It is worked both flat and in the round at times. The designer includes a video in her pattern that will help you when constructing this garment. And I do see she is also on YouTube, and I will link her channel below. The designer uses Husk Sport by Life in the Long Grass, and this is a sport weight yarn that is made up of 80% merino, 10% silk, and 10% cashmere. So it's going to feel extremely soft and squishy and luxurious. She recommends using needle sizes US 2.5, US 4, and US 6. And the gauge on this pattern is 24 stitches by 30 rows. So that is the Meadowbit by Teti Lutsak. Okay, so the next pattern is the Hemlock Pullover by Monica Christine. I love this sweater. It's super casual, but I love the cabling that runs down each sleeve. It's very simple, but it's definitely a statement. And I do think this piece would be great for those of us who have yet to knit a lot of cables. So this sweater is worked from the top down, starting at the neckline. There are some short rows involved when shaping the neck and the shoulders, and the shoulder is a saddle like construction, and this garment is worked flat and in the round at times too. The designer uses Derirum Natura's Ulysses, which is a 100% merino wool, and it is a sport weight wool. The designer recommends using needle sizes US 6, 2.5, and 1.5, and the gauge for this pattern is 19 stitches by 30 rows. So that is the Hemlock Pullover by Monica Christine. The next pattern I want to talk about is the Audrey Cardigan by Pernille Larsen. This cardigan is so adorable. It is described by the designer as simple, soft, and feminine, and I definitely agree with that description. It is worked from the top down, flash, back and forth, and it features this really cute I-cord closure at the top, which can be tied in a bow. And then it also features that I-cord bind off on the sleeves and the hem of the body. It is a very simple stockinette constructed garment. And again, I do feel like the simplicity of this garment lends to the beauty of this garment. The designer uses Knitting for Olives merino, which is a 100% merino yarn, and it is a fingering weight yarn, and she holds that with Knitting for Olives soft silk mohair, which is a lace weight yarn, and it is comprised of 70% mohair and 30% silk. The designer recommends using needle sizes US 4 and 7, and the gauge is 20 stitches by 26 rows. So that is the Audrey Cardigan by Pernille Larsen. Okay, so the next pattern is the Cecilia sweater by Woolly Chronicles. This garment stood out to me for its rustic aesthetic, I guess you could say. I love the color blocking along with that like delicate motif that separates each color. It also features these really cool wide sleeves that give just some extra character to this sweater. This garment is constructed seamlessly in the round from the top down. The body and the sleeves are separated, and those sleeve stitches are placed on hold while the body is being worked in the round, and they are picked up at the end and worked in the round also. And then this pattern also features a really cool ribbed rolled hem. And I do think that also adds to that rustic aesthetic that I mentioned previously. The designer uses Drops Soft Tweed by Garn Studio, which is a DK weight yarn, and it is a blend of 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and 25% rayon. She recommends using needle size US 2.5 and US size 4, and the gauge for this pattern is 19 stitches by 30 rows. So that is the Cecilia sweater by Woolly Chronicles. Moving on to the next pattern, and it is another pattern by the Woolly Chronicles, and it is the Ramoon sweater. The designer explains that Ramoon is daisy in Lithuanian, and it features, as you can see, this beautiful daisy pattern throughout the sweater that is worked up beautifully. So the Ramoon sweater does have a different neckline to the Cecilia sweater, but other than that, they are constructed very similarly. Again, the Ramoon is constructed in the round from the top down. Body and sleeves are separated, and then after working the body in the round, you come back and you pick up those sleeves. And it also features that beautiful wide sleeve that the Cecilia sweater has too. The designer recommends using Knitting for Olives Merino, which is a light fingering weight 100% merino. The designer recommends using needle sizes US 1.5 and 2.5, and the gauge for this pattern is 28 stitches by 38 rows. So that is the Ramoon sweater by Woolly Chronicles. Okay, so the next pattern I have to share is the Twist Light Loop sweater by Other Loops. And as you can see, this is a beautiful sweater which features the design elements of ribbing paired with cables. It is worked from the top down, and the neckband is worked first, and then after doing so, you'll move on to work some short rows to shape the neckline, and the piece is then worked in the round from there on out. And those decreases that are worked on the sleeves are so cleverly done. It looks so intentional and so beautiful. The designer uses Ichigo's silk mohair, and that is a lace weight yarn, and it is made up of 75% mohair and 25% silk. She uses it held double, and the needle size that is recommended is US size 4 and US size 6. And the gauge for this sweater is 20 stitches by 28 rows. So that's the Twist Light Loop sweater by Other Loops. So the next pattern is the Fresno Sweater Light by Magdalena Parker. And of course, the cables are what drew me to this sweater. It is so beautifully executed. I love the casualness of the drop shoulder, and I love the cable size and how cozy they make this sweater look. She also knits this up in Cardiff Cashmere Classic, so you just know this is going to be the softest, coziest cable sweater that you can knit up. She doesn't go into too much detail on the construction of this sweater, but I do see circular needles are used, so that indicates that there's very little to no seaming involved in this pattern, which is always a plus in my opinion. The needle size recommended is US size 6, and the gauge is 28 stitches by 35 rows. This sweater screams fall to me. This is, again, another beautiful piece. I feel like it's classic. If you were to knit this up, you would probably have it forever. It's so beautiful, and I really feel like there's just like no going out of style with this one. It's just a beautiful, classic cable design sweater. The next pattern and the final pattern I'm going to be talking about today is the Amy jacket by Simone Ryan. Now, this pattern had my heart from the very beginning for two reasons. First, I think it's beautiful. It features these gorgeous cable and ribbing designs throughout the entirety of the cardigan, but also the designer goes on to explain the origin of this jacket, and she explains that it is named after her great grandmother of Irish heritage, and her name was Amy. And it is inspired by a heirloom piece that was gifted to her from her great grandmother. And the sentimental value of this just makes this piece so much more special. The designer uses Donegal tweed by Lang Yarns, and it is a worsted weight 100% wool. And she recommends using needle sizes US 6 and 7. And this pattern has a gauge of 20 stitches by 26 rows. Yeah, so this particular garment to me just screams fall. It looks so cozy. It is very reminiscent of Ireland, which, if you don't know, is where I'm originally from. And so I think the beautiful design paired with the sentimental story behind this garment make it really, really special. So that is the Amy by Simone Ryan. Okay, so there you have it. Those are my top picks out of the patterns released in July. If you plan on making any of these patterns, please let me know down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed watching my video today as much as I did making it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to hanging out with you all again soon. Bye.